Hi, thanks for joining me today. My name is Michelle Engel. I used to be a special education teacher and I absolutely loved it. But I wanted to help families and to really teach more about the ins and outs of the educational system. And so I decided to start my own company called Insight Ed. And in this way, I can share my insight with you. So today we'll be talking about the IEP meeting for general education teachers. So what it is and how to prepare for this. A lot of times you have this wonderful team at your school, but the time to sit down and explain all of this just isn't there. And so I'm here for you today to do that. First of all, what is an IEP meeting? So an IEP meeting is a meeting to determine what specific needs and basically the entire educational plan for your child with a disability who's qualified for special education services. During the meeting, you're going to decide some pretty important things. You are going to talk about the needs, the strengths, and the levels of the student. You're going to create some goals based on that information, determine what services and aids might be needed, and the amount of time the student will be in and out of the classroom. There's a lot of other little things. Those are the big ones. And I'll talk about those a little bit more. Who's going to be at the IEP meeting? So you're going to be there as well as parents for sure. Okay. Really try to get those parents there. And also everyone that works with the child on that special education team. So this could be a big meeting with lots of people. We're talking about this, possibility of having a special education teacher, an occupational therapist, a speech language person, a school psychologist. There's lots and lots of people who might contribute. So it could be a very big meeting. That's okay. The more minds, the better, right? The parent can also bring someone, and this person could be, anyone that knows the child's educational needs. So it could be a grandparent, it could be a tutor, it could be an educational consultant like me, it could be, oh gosh, let me think. It could be an advocate if there's some legal issues or something like that that the parent feels like they need someone there for that. And again, lots of people, right? So the reason we have an IEP meeting, I never forget the purpose, right? It's the purpose is the child, all right? But we do have to have them by law too. And so there's a couple things that happen. During the meeting, a document is created, and that's the IEP, right? And whatever is in there is legally binding. So really be an advocate for the child, an advocate for yourself, and ask questions because you are expected to know what you're talking about or what's being talked about after the meeting. So you are specifically as a general education teacher, um, you need to be, okay, not only at the meeting, and the law says basically you need to be at the meeting if the child participates in your classroom at all or may participate in your classroom at all. So you really need to be there. And then you're also, your role, like your legal role, is determining behavioral supports, program modifications, personnel, and whatever the child needs to attain their goals. In other words, you're the person who knows the classroom, who knows whatever grade you teach that curriculum. You're the expert there on that curriculum and interacting in the classroom. And so speak up and ask any questions you have. You are a super important part of that meeting. All right. Don't get intimidated though. It's brainstorming. Everyone there is just a person like you. So, enjoy that creative process. Um, if you do have, I just want to make a point of if you feel like you need more support in the classroom, talk to the IEP team ahead of time. It's the IEP meeting. At the meeting, you don't want to shock someone by saying, oh, I really think that we need, to hire a person to be in the classroom more. That is something, bring that up with them ahead of time and see what you can work out so that you're kind of on the same page at the meeting. So when that comes up, you've already had, you've been prepared and you can present that to parents if that's something that they're interested in supporting too. Um, let's see, I'm going to go over your specific responsibilities after the meeting a little bit later. I want to talk right now a little bit about mindset. Mindset is super important, okay? This meeting directly impacts your student and can really, really make a difference in their life. So this isn't just a formality that the special education teacher or team needs to finish the paperwork, okay? It's truly a plan to make this child succeed, okay? Um, it's a lot to take in when you're at the meeting, totally okay. You are not expected to know all the verbiage or anything ahead of time or expected to study anything ahead of time at all, okay? Just be present. Afterwards, you'll get a summary of the meeting. Um, Again, you're an active, a super important person of this member of this team. So be there in mind as well as body. Be well prepared. You're gonna, if you're well prepared, you're gonna be more relaxed and have a more receptive and confident state of mind. Be ready to listen for understanding. As opposed to, I know a lot of times in meetings, we're just like waiting for our turn to talk. Just be a listener, take it all in, and then ask questions as you need to. You are super important to this child. Doesn't matter how long they're in your classroom. So remember that you can seriously make or break that child's spirit this year. It's a wonderful and important part of being a teacher, right? So before the meeting, well before the meeting, I would say like a week or two before the meeting, there's a few things you're going to want to do. First of all, go ahead and ask the IEP team, what should I bring? Chances are they're going to say, okay, I've got everything, don't worry, just be there. But I'm going to tell you just to be a little better prepared. Um, it'll help you as well as them. So the first thing I want you to bring is progress monitoring information, not only the current information, but for the whole past year. That is going to help a lot. Any relevant data, such as like state or district testing that you've done. What's really cool is if you have that right there, if a parent says, I can't remember what the test score was, you have it there and you've got it covered and nobody's having to search on their computer for scores. Um, think about the student's strengths as well as their interests and their needs. Needs meaning weaknesses. So what are they really struggling in? And then sharing the information about the student's goals to the special education team. This is before the meeting. So, you're working on the goals in the classroom also. And so share that with them. Also, share if whether or not the child is transferring skills learned perhaps in an intervention to your classroom. If you're not seeing transfer, that is super important for them to know. If you have any new concerns that, maybe this child has had issues in reading and all of a sudden there's big issues in writing, bring that up ahead of time too. And then have accommodation ideas in your head or on notes or whatever. And also think about how the current accommodation, whether they're working or whether they, aren't needed anymore. And if you have an issue, but you can't quite think of an accommodation for it, that's okay. That's what this meeting is for, right? You can bring that up during that time of, talking about accommodations and say, I think something in this area would help, but I can't think of what it might be. That'd be absolutely perfect. Talk to your student before the meeting, okay? So you have that relationship with them. Ask them, what's going on right now? What's your biggest struggle? What do you really like? What are some of your interests? Um, how do you feel about working towards your goals? Get that information so that you're feeling, and also, you're feeling confident that you're speaking for the child and you're also advocating for that child throughout the meeting. Even if it's a high school student or a younger student who might be participating in the meeting, I really feel like that conversation ahead of time is great because it's intimidating. Think about this kid, even an 18-year-old senior in high school who's sitting there and the principal's there and this, all these other professionals are there. They may not speak up for themselves during the meeting. So you're at the table with all these people, right? And you're not expected to run the meeting. So one of the team members, the special education team, members are going to run that meeting. If you don't understand something throughout the meeting, please ask. Chances are somebody else is thinking it, and the parents might be really relieved that you've asked a question because they might not even know what to ask specifically. And because you were prepared, you have your progress monitoring, both current and past. feel free to share that information, especially during the goals portion of the meeting. It can also be used to determine extended school year. And so they need data to determine that. And extended school year is just a very small summer program usually, where the child will focus specifically on their IEP goals. And then for parents, be an active listener, okay? Meetings can seriously bring up some issues for parents. And so they may have had a really difficult relationship with their schooling in the past. So just be there as a support for them. Bring a pen, some tissues, a cup of tea, whatever. Make them feel comfortable, sit next to them. Um, and they may not know anyone else besides you. So, create that bond, that relationship. And if you've had a difficult relationship with them in the past, that's okay. This is going to be a great time for them to see that you are on their child's side. So that is, wonderful for them to see. However, okay, I say all of that, like have this great relationship with the parents, but this isn't the time to chit chat too much. There's a lot to be done during this meeting. So those long stories or those, annotate, those test scores that you want to go through or whatever, um, just, ask the parents if they'd like to meet later on and meet with them and talk with them about that and keep that relationship going. During the meeting, you don't have to take notes. Don't worry about that. Be an active member of the meeting. You might want to jot something down if it's like an important, I have to do this, but other than that, don't worry about it. And after the meeting, go ahead and get a summary in some way. You might get notes afterwards, you might not. And so make sure that you do get a summary, especially of the accommodations and the goals. You do have the legal right to see the IEP. So if you need to go and take notes, that's fine. But usually the special education team will provide you a summary of some sort. And if it wasn't made absolutely clear at the meeting, ask, what specifically am I responsible for? Am I specifically, should I be doing the progress monitoring and sharing that information? And as far as following up, make sure that you give the parents a call or a text or something and just thank them for being there. Make sure that you have those notes again. And then if there's any equipment that anyone has talked about that you haven't gotten, follow up. Everyone's busy and sometimes these things get forgotten. So make sure you follow up with that. And then, of course, continue that positive communication with the parents as well as the IEP team. So that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know that was a lot of information in a very short time. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and contact me. Either call me or email. I think the information is below. Thank you so much. Bye.